Welcome to the Switchblade Sisters Social Club, a true crime podcast where two sisters exploit their worst fears for your entertainment. You're welcome. I'm Dee.
And I'm Rhonda, and together we are the Sake Sisters. For more information, check out our website at www.switchbladesistersocialclub.com or find us on Instagram and Facebook at Switchblade Sisters Social Club.
Thanks for listening. This is Dee.
I'm Rhonda. Hi.
We are the Switchblade Sister Social Club, back for another episode. And Rhonda, I want to kick off by thanking some of our amazing listeners because we've had so much support, so many messages, so many reviews, and we are just so honored. So in particular, I want to thank Louise and Lisa. Hi, guys.
Hi.
Thank you. Thank you for your support. I mentioned reviews. Not all of them are positive.
Well, we should expect that occasionally one is going to come through that maybe isn't as favorable. And we did have a comment on our YouTube from when the podcast was your former podcast, We Need the Moon.
Yeah, I should say, we did an episode on hybristophilia. So for those of you who don't know, go check out that episode. I found it fucking fascinating. But it's about people that specifically seek out relationships with people in prison. So it's not like, oh, I've got a partner and they've gone to jail and I've stuck by them. No, it's people that actively seek out relationships with people in prison. And we don't pretend to be unbiased or educated on most of the things we talk about. So we have opinions. And our opinion was we did not fucking understand it at all.
Yeah.
We tried.
So I'll read out the review. I won't reveal the name. Let's call her Karen for argument's sake.
But she commented on YouTube if you want to go have a look.
Yeah. So this is what she wrote. I have hybristophilia. I have had prison pen pals. I do not have low self-esteem and have not experienced trauma. This show was very judgmental. Get off your high horse. So, okay.
I want to say that when we talked about confidence levels and so forth, we were quoting studies on that. That wasn't necessarily our opinion. I've never met anyone with hybristophilia to have a personal opinion.
Yeah. So I'm gonna address this comment. You know, we're not angry about it. It's going to happen. No. You know, we have a podcast. We expect opinions. We're not for everyone. But just to clarify a few points. So we believe in rehabilitation and we believe in second chances. Okay.
Yeah. And I want to add to that. That is not necessarily because we give a fuck about the people perpetrating these crimes. It's because if people are going to come out of prison, you better fucking hope, if you want a decent society, that those people are rehabilitated.
Yeah.
Right?
And also, after our chat with DCI Steve Gaskin, in that amazing podcast episode that he joined us on, you know, he talks about getting to the root cause. You know, even when people are kids going into schools and telling them, you know, about crimes that are not okay, you know. So we also believe in getting to the root cause before people become criminals. So that's our perspective. That's our stance. Okay. So we do believe in rehabilitation and second chances. But I don't think it needs to be said, but we're not mild-mannered, and I don't believe our listeners want us to be. They didn't come here for a fucking Virgin's Tea Party, you know? That's not what we're all about. But we will use this as a learning experience and an opportunity for growth and to try to see more of the gray areas and not be so black and white in my thinking, especially. Deanna is so much less judgmental. So we will accept your comment about being judgmental. You know, maybe. But also to
Could we reach out for her to come on the podcast? I know, I don't want to either.
Wild card, maybe. I don't know. I don't know that my nervous system could take that. Yeah. But also, I don't think it needs to be said, but we're not criminologists. We are not psychologists. We are also not therapists. This is not a documentary. We are literally two nearly middle-aged sisters shooting the shit, talking about crime and having fun. So
I will say we are very prolific researchers.
We are, you know, we actually really are. But we do share our opinions. And I think we're really clear that we're fascinated by the whole topic of hybristophilia. We don't understand the mentality of people who actively seek out the red flags. I'm someone who doesn't like to I'm someone who runs
invite risk.
Yeah. And I run a mile from dysfunction and drama, so I cannot for a second understand the mentality. We will take your word for it that you've not experienced trauma.
Kind of sounds like something someone who's got unresolved trauma would say.
Possibly, but again, we're not therapists, psychologists, criminologists, etc. But we will take this as a learning opportunity and, you know, take it on board. Can't say it's going to change much of what we say or do, but we hear you, Karen. We hear you. And on that note,
can I just say her name really is Karen? We're not calling her Karen.
It's not Karen. It's not.
Oh, it's not.
No, that's just.
Oh, you were actually calling her Karen.
Yeah. No, I'm not going to reveal her name. But also on that note, we have heard from some interesting people.
Oh my God, I know what you're going to say. This one blew my mind.
Yeah. Message came in. This comment actually on our Instagram came in, and it was from Amy Fisher when we covered that episode a while back. Amy Fisher, it was her from her former inmate, and her name is
her former cellmate.
Yeah. Her name is Carmen Mila Grobond, 2019. And
hi, Carmen. Hi, Carmen.
Hi. So she wrote, I was former inmate with Amy Fisher as same cell room at Nassau County Jail in East Meadow, Long Island, New York in 1993. My charges were bank robbery for 1 year because I'm deaf. Time served.
So that blew our minds.
Yeah. So we hear from some interesting people. Also, we have to mention, we had a comment come through, and this one blew my mind. It was from one of our loves, the Colin Sutton.
I've decided I'm making Colin Sutton. It's probably out by the time this record comes out, because this episode comes out, because I'm going to make it happen. I'm making Colin Sutton merch.
Yeah.
Colin Sutton fan club merch.
He deserves a hoodie with his face on it if it doesn't already exist. So yeah, I mean, the comments were the comments that are coming through are just phenomenal. It's, you know, the people we've spoken to and the stories that have come in, even, you know, like when we covered Levi Belfield, you know, people's personal anecdotes. It's just insane.
Yeah. So we're really just touched that people are listening to our podcast and enjoying it is maybe not the right word, but finding it interesting. I have another funny anecdote from, so I fully openly admit is not the right word because there's nothing wrong with it, but I have counseling once a week. And I regularly obviously talk about podcasts and stuff like that with my counselor, Susanna. Hi, Susanna, if you're listening for more insights. And you know, this is a topic that fascinates us, like true crime, but also why do people like true crime? Or right? And so I was like, is it my anxiety? Is there something morbidly wrong with me? What's going on? Why do I find this dark side of humanity so intriguing? And she said, and I quote, well, I don't know, I've made a career of studying fucked up people.
I like her for that. I like her for that.
And it made me feel better.
It's true though. You know, it's why, you know, people buy newspapers, like the tabloids. Do you know what I mean? They want, you know, it's why headlines are shocking. Shocking stories draw people in, you know?
Yeah. Well, before we get onto the course, I've been dying to do this topic for so long that I can't believe this day has come. But before I even tell you what it is, I want us to talk about our course.
Oh my God, our course. I'm so excited. It's something that I'm genuinely so excited that we're launching into the world, because we have spent some serious fucking time.
I mean, if you're wondering what we're doing at 5 a.m. every morning, it's texting each other about this course and working on this course.
Yeah.
So
and we really
by now it's live.
Yeah, it's live. You can enroll on our course, and we are really sharing with you the whole journey of putting a podcast out into the world. Absolutely everything from designing your cover art to coming up with your tagline to promoting it on social media, how to edit it, absolutely everything. We have made mistakes and learned the hard way.
Yeah.
And invested in ourselves a lot on programs, courses, training, and good old fashioned, as I said, trial and error. And so
we're not even giving you that many different options for different softwares and stuff like that. We're just telling you if this is what you should start out with. Don't worry about looking through all the different options and weighing up the pros and cons. We've done that for you. If you want to do that further down the line, great, but let's just get you started. So within weeks, if you get this course, you could have your podcast up and running and start having it out there.
That we also share behind the scenes of what we do, how we plan our content, how we plan our topics, how we write the show notes. We've got a template for you for writing show notes. We've got templates for hashtag research. We show you how to write a social media caption, how to find those hashtags. Absolutely.
There's even
everything.
A video of me just editing audio for like an hour.
Yeah. We've
just
got
so
videos.
That you can see, because, you know, it's all fine and dandy getting instructions, but like, what does that look like? So it might not be the most riveting video, but if you want to learn how to edit using Audacity, watch it firsthand.
Yeah. And we really get you there without you having to do the trial and error yourself. We share with you our favorite programs, absolutely everything from, you know, workflow management to our favorite apps for video editing, absolutely everything, so that you don't have to find out for yourself.
And each sort of chapter, each module has got a video tutorial in there as well. So not only do you have written instructions on how to do everything, but we give you a video tutorial as well, so that we're catering for all the different ways that people like to learn and absorb information best. From a former teacher.
Exactly. Do you know what? That's something else I actually really loved about it. Dee's a veteran podcaster. We are in the top 25, even I think 3 episodes in, we were in the top 25 podcasts. And I'm a former teacher, and I loved creating resources and, you know, in a way that's digestible for people. And so,
you're a social media manager, so, you know, who better to learn from but us?
So it was a labor of love, and we really hope that you like it and get a lot out of it too.
Yeah. Fantastic. So more information in our bio and on our website. So do go check that out and contact us if you've got any questions about it, if you want to know if the course is right for you and so forth. We've got loads of information on the website, and message us. We freaking love getting messages.
We do. And if a course isn't for you, then we also offer one-to-one consulting. So if you want to learn how to do your social media for your podcast, or how to everything about podcasting from Dee, you could book in for a one-to-one lesson with us.
On that note, I need to tell you.
Tell me the fucking story.
Do you know what? This story is, the more I went into it, the more batshit cuckoo bananas.
My favorites. Okay, cool. Yep. These are the ones I love. I love twists and turns. I love crazy shit. Let's go.
All right. So, and the thing is, I don't even think you know it. I didn't know it until I stumbled across one amazing article from, just bear with me. I think it was on ABC News. Yeah, ABC News article. And then I was like, I got a book on it, which I will tell you about. And going in, I was like, what the fuck? Okay. The whole way through. Okay. So this is, all right, first of all, I'm just going to start. I'm not even going to tell you.
Okay.
Or maybe I will. Okay, it is the Liz Golyar, Cari Farver story.
Never heard of their names. Okay, cool.
Also involving Dave Krupa.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So my sources were an episode of Deadline and Snapped, but these were like really tame in terms of the actual fascinating details that just made me realize, like, obviously each one of those cases that they feature has got so much going on that they just remove for editing reasons. I told you a fantastic article on ABC News and a book by Leslie Rule, which I'll tell you about later. So let me set the scene. Can you imagine receiving messages like this? My favorite thing to do is stand outside and stare at you.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
Or what about this? I hate you so much that I want to drive a knife into your heart. Or what about this? I will destroy your life and take your happiness.
Oh my God. Do you know what? This is reminding me of The Watcher.
Yes.
The Watcher. Oh, fuck.
Yes,
Okay.
there's Watcher vibes.
Anything about getting messages from somebody you don't know and who's watching you, fucking creepy.
So these are just some examples of the text messages that Dave Krupa received over a 3-year period. 3-year period.
Why didn't he change his number?
He changed his number multiple times, but
shit.
It never helped.
Shit.
So let me tell you about Dave. He moved to Omaha in 2012. He was 34 and he just separated from his long-term girlfriend of 12 years, a lady called Amy Flora. Amy was the mother of his 2 kids, and they separated fairly amicably for the sake of the children. But he's newly single. He's been with this woman for 12 years. He's newly single, so he decides to go online dating. And the first person he meets is Shanna Elizabeth Golyar. And from this point on, she will go by the name Liz, right? Dave describes her as pretty. He was clearly attracted to her. And she was also a single mom with 2 kids, roughly the same age as his. And after the 4th or 5th date, they go home together and they do the deed. Dave says he was always open with her about not wanting anything serious, having just come out of a long-term relationship, having to try to navigate being like, you know, a dad, you know, having separated with the mom, moving to a new area, starting a new job, all these things, right? He's got a lot on his plate, and he says he was always open with her about not wanting anything serious. So they're just casually dating. Fast forward about 6 months later, and a woman, Dave is a mechanic, and a woman walks into his auto shop where he works, and he's instantly attracted to her. This is Cari Farver. He's attracted to her, but he remains professional, and so he doesn't ask her out or anything like that, because he's obviously in the workplace. So, you know, kudos to him. But then when he sees her on a dating app, he sees her on Plenty of Fish, he drops her a message. So fair enough, right?
Wait, how long ago did this happen?
This is 2012-ish.
Okay.
Yeah. So he sees her on the dating app and he drops her a message saying, hi, I know you, you know, and they start chatting. He asks her out and they go out. They end up back at his place after their first date. And she tells him she doesn't want anything serious. And he's like, fucking jackpot, yay, you know, because he doesn't want anything serious either. She's also a single mom. She's got a 15-year-old son called Max. And she's like she's a laugh, she's pretty. It's just amazing, right?
I'm guessing not.
As Cari leaves that night, she crosses paths with Liz in the hallway because Liz turns up unannounced, the other woman, to get some of her stuff from Dave's apartment. Just bear that in mind.
Did Liz see Cari leave?
Just bear it in mind.
Oh, okay.
We'll get to that. So Dave is dating Cari, he's dating Liz, and potentially other people as well. Cari has a busy period at work coming up, and she actually works really close to where Dave lives. She lives in the neighboring state about an hour away. And that's why she went to that auto shop, because it was near her work. And so Dave suggests that over this 3-day period, while she has this like intense work period, that like as a friend with benefits, why doesn't she just stay at his? So she won't have to commute during that period. Like really just friends helping each other out kind of vibe. And she's totally on board. She's like, that would be amazing. Thank you. I'll be no problem, you know. They both are very much on the understanding they're not serious. At this point, they've only been dating about 2 weeks, but they seem very much on the same page. So Cari comes over. She goes to stay the night for, you know, the first night of this sort of 3-4 day period or whatever. The next morning, Dave leaves her in his flat to go to work, and she's due to go to work soon after he leaves. As soon as Dave arrives at work, he gets a text message from her saying, I think we should move in together.
Okay.
And he's like, what the fuck? That's not the vibe that he gets from her. You know, it was like out of the blue. He replies very politely, like, that's not what we agreed. I told you I don't want anything serious, etc., etc. I thought I'd been clear. I thought you wanted the same thing. And then he gets hit by a barrage of text. A barrage? A barrage from Cari.
I think it's barrage.
Barrage.
Oh, no, I've never heard it because I'd only read it.
A lot of text. And they're totally different in tone. He's now getting text saying, I hate you. I have another guy anyways. He really loves me. Fuck you. Blah, blah, blah.
And this is actually her texting it. Oh.
So he replies, look, I don't think this is a good idea anymore. I don't think you should stay at mine. Like, I don't know where this has come from, but we're clearly not on the same page. You know, he gets home after work. All signs of Cari are gone. And he's just thinking, what a relief. I don't know what the fuck happened there, but I've dodged a bullet, right? He doesn't hear from Cari for 2 days. And now I'm going to go into her background a little bit, all right?
Okay, so she leaves.
She's left the flat. No sign of her. No word from her for 2 days. But first, let me go back a bit. She's roughly the same age as Dave. Like I said, she's got a 15-year-old son. And then after having her son, she had some bouts of postnatal depression, and was later diagnosed with bipolar disorder. She was on medicine for this, and she was receiving therapy. But there had been a few times where she'd come off her meds. And presumably she acknowledged that she was better on her meds because she always went back on them. At the time that Cari met Dave, she was in a really good place. She was doing really well at work. She was a coder, a programmer, so like super intelligent. Her son was doing well at school. You know, she's doing fantastic. Cari's mom, Nancy Rainey, after a couple of days of this incident with Cari and Dave, she starts getting text messages from Cari as well. And remember, she thought that Cari was staying with Dave for a few days and she was looking after Max, the son. She gets these messages saying, actually, I've moved to Kansas. I've got a job and I'm now just up to move to Kansas. Remember, Kansas is not where Dave lived. Dave lives in Omaha. So and they were really close, Nancy and Cari. They lived nearby. They lived in a small town together. Nancy was very involved in helping with childcare for Max. So Cari asks the mom, can you look after Max for the foreseeable future until I get settled and then I'll come and get him? Cari's mom is totally confused because they're really close. So where the fuck did this even come from? She didn't even know that Cari was applying for jobs in Kansas and that she was leaving, you know, that she'd already left, right? She keeps trying to call Cari, but Cari never answers the phone. And then Cari misses her own birthday, Max's birthday, her brother's wedding, her friend's baby, birth of her baby, and baby
is she still alive?
Stop asking me questions. Tell the fucking story.
Okay, tell me the story. Go.
So eventually, Cari's mom reports her missing because she's like, Cari wouldn't do this. This is not her. She hasn't heard her voice on the phone, so she's like, I'm not okay with this. There's something wrong, you know. But as soon as the police find out that she has bipolar and that she's on meds and that she has a history of coming off the meds, the police kind of lose interest. They're like, well, she's clearly going through something. It's not illegal to leave, you know, to go missing as an adult. There's no sign of foul play. These things happen. It's shitty, but what do you want us to do about it, you know? But Cari's mom is like not convinced. Like, I would know if you started texting me totally different, if you started acting totally different, even over text or email. I'd be like, this doesn't sound like her, you know?
And I'm always surprised at how long it takes people to get worried. Because I get worried if it's been 24 hours. If it'd be like fucking 12 hours from you, I'd get worried.
So meanwhile, back to Dave. He's receiving so many text messages along the lines of what I told you at the beginning of the episode. I will do what I can to make you suffer. He's
Mhm.
also getting messages mentioning Liz.
Okay.
And then, you know, the other girl that he was seeing. And then Liz herself starts getting messages. They both also start receiving abusive emails. And one day, Liz finds graffiti on the inside of her garage, which says, "Whore from Dave," which doesn't even make sense, but it's so fucking creepy, right? And they'll be having dates where they're sitting at home, you know, at one of their places watching a movie, and they're both just receiving hundreds of messages.
And what was Dave saying to Liz? That was he saying, "Oh, this is a girl I was seeing"? Okay.
Yeah.
Liz should have run a mile. Come on, Liz.
He had to obviously tell Liz what was going on. I was seeing this girl. She went totally cuckoo bananas, you know. Meanwhile, Nancy, Carrie's mom, like I said, she knows something's wrong. Cari is still texting her, but won't take any phone calls. Max is also getting messages, but also can't get Cari on the phone. So she's not even talking to her son, who she's always had a very loving relationship with.
That makes me so sad about the son. Why would she just leave him?
And Nancy is super clever. I've got a lot of time for this Nancy, right? She notices that the texts are not in the style that Cari usually texts in. There's loads of spelling mistakes, grammatical errors that Cari never uses. I'm imagining like turns of phrase that aren't in Cari's regular vocab, you know? So, meanwhile, back to Dave, he's getting physically stalked. He's getting messages like, "I can see you in your blue shirt on your chair," and stuff like that. So, suspicious, right? So in January 2013, which is 2 months after the harassment has started, Dave sees Cari's car in the car park near his house. He takes a picture of it and he sends it to the police. When the police search it, it's super clean. And when I mean clean, I mean fucking spotless. There's not a single fingerprint on the steering wheel, on the gear stick, you know, on any of the handles. That's weird, right? They do find a single fingerprint.
Why were they fingerprinting, by the way? Why were they doing that? If it was registered to her, why would you fingerprint?
I guess because she's been reported in one state, Nebraska, for harassment. So she's technically, there's a warrant out for her.
Okay.
And then in the other state, the neighboring state where she actually lived, she's reported as missing.
Okay.
So I guess they're looking for clues and they don't see her anywhere. So why is her car there? I don't know. But they went along and they fingerprinted it. And they also looked for obviously any kind of other evidence. There's only one single fingerprint on a little box of mints in the car, but they can't match it. It's not Cari's. And they can't match it to anyone's in the database. So now, 6 months after Cari moves to Kansas in quotation marks, Max decides to message his mother on Facebook. It's not their normal form of communication. Like, we don't message our mom on Facebook. That's not how we contact her. But he tried everything else. So he sends her a message because he's so desperate to get hold of his mom. It's been 6 months. He's 15, you know? So she replies, "Hey, little man, how are you?" Which I don't think is like what she referred to him as ever. So again, clever boy. He decides to ask her 3 questions to test to see if it really is his mother. She won't answer the phone, which is super suspicious. So fine, if there's some reason why you won't talk on the phone, prove to me anyway. He asks her what his middle name is, what their first dog's name was, and what his best friend is called. So all stuff that at the very least it would have to be someone very close to the family to be able to answer, right? And definitely easy questions if it's his actual mother. What Cari does at this point is just stops responding.
So it's not her.
Creepy, isn't it?
Yeah.
Meanwhile, back to Dave and Liz. They've continued their sort of loose relationship now that Cari's out of the picture. They're continually getting abuse from her. Like I said, they'll be sitting on the sofa next to each other watching TV and getting like streams of messages, emails, text messages from Cari.
Do you know what? I was going to say, is it Dave behind all this? But it can't be because
They're sitting next to each other getting these messages. They're getting regular death threats. They're getting links to fake obituaries that she's written about them.
This is some effort.
They're getting pictures of people tied up in boots of cars and stuff. Like proper threatening messages, right? So then in August 2013, almost a year after Cari moved to Kansas, in quotation marks, because she went missing around November 2012, Liz's house catches on fire. And this kills her 2 dogs, her cat, and her snake. The police determined that it's arson. And Liz, of course, says to the police that she suspects Cari because she doesn't have anyone else in her life that has been threatening her so openly. Dave, at this point, gets so paranoid that he gets a gun, which he knows is not going to end well. He's had graffiti at work as well, saying that he beats women, which is like awful, isn't it? I mean, there's no evidence that this is true. So just terrible stuff to have spray painted at your work, right? Someone had gone through the bins at his work. Windows of women that he's dated have been smashed in because he's still going on occasional dates with other people. And now Amy Flora, remember the mother of Dave's kids, starts getting messages as well.
Okay, so his ex, okay.
Yeah, so it's his ex, the mother of his 2 kids, who he's obviously still in regular contact with because he's seeing the kids. This goes on, like I said, for 3 years. Can you imagine living like this?
No, I would be constantly looking over my shoulder, full of anxiety.
Poor mom has no idea what's going on with her daughter, if her daughter's safe, why she's just upped and left. She's raising this child who's now turning 18. Dave, Liz, Amy, Flora, everyone's getting messages. Sometimes the messages are threatening all the kids involved in these people's lives. At this point, so 3 years after this has started, I guess the police department decide to start looking in some open cold cases, right? And you remember there's the one police department that has Cari down as missing, and another department which has her down as a crazy stalker. But neither of them can find her since she went missing in November 2012. So 2 cops decide to reopen the case, and they decide to come at it from different angles. So one cop is going to work on the assumption that Cari is alive, and the other cop is going to work on the assumption that Cari is dead.
Okay.
Which is interesting. Such an interesting approach, isn't it? They see that there's absolutely no activity on her bank account, which is really unusual, suspicious, because, you know, she's moved to another state. She would still need her bank details. They get Detective Kava, a digital forensic administrator, involved. He's my case crush. You know how I always have my case crush? It's this guy. They look at all the records they've obtained from Dave and Liz's phones back in 2013, because they've done occasional phone dumps.
Okay.
Right? Where they've extracted all the information so they could get all the messages that they've been receiving from Cari.
Can't they check where messages come from? Like they check IP addresses and stuff?
But remember, you can hide all that stuff if you're clever. Cari,
she was
computer
a coder.
Motherfucker,
right? She's smart. If it's her, we don't know yet.
So during these 3 years, Dave and Liz had received up to 50,000 messages.
Oh my God.
But the police are starting to doubt that it's Cari at all, aren't we all? Like, if it is Cari, why isn't she answering the phone? And if it isn't Cari, who the fuck is it? Because everyone's receiving this abuse. And then on Liz's phone, they find a picture of Cari's car. But it was taken a month before police recovered it, a month before Dave found it in the lot near his house, which is odd. That she's seen the car, taken a picture of it, not reported it. She's already receiving abuse from this person. They also noticed from Liz's records that she'd actually called Cari's house 6 times before Cari went missing. And she used *67 to hide the phone number.
Liz.
So Liz had called. So before Cari went missing or moved to Kansas, whichever one you believe at this point, Liz had obtained her phone number and called her 6 times. And they're like, why would she? They were both very casually dating the same guy. They also found some pictures on Liz's phone of women being tied up, some of which had been emailed from Cari, in quotation marks, in order to threaten Liz. They've also found videos uploaded to YouTube of Dave's flat under Cari's name, but from an IP address linked to Liz's house.
What the fuck? So Liz is the bad guy. Huh?
The police talked to Nancy, Cari's mom, remember? And Nancy says that when Cari left, you know, when she said to her mom, I'm moving to Kansas, she texted her that, you know, this move was legit. She had sold all her furniture. Look, here's a check from the person who's buying all her furniture. And she sent a picture of a check to prove that she was really moving and she'd sold all her furniture. And can you guess the name on the check?
Oh.
Shanna Golyar, who is
Liz. Oh my fucking God. Okay.
Which is just another really weird, unexplained connection between these two supposed strangers, right? So you're like, what the fuck is going on here? They also, I told you, found a fingerprint on Cari's car. And on the box of mints in her car, everything else was spotless. Can you guess whose fingerprint it was? Yeah.
Fucking hell. So Liz is the bad guy.
Bear with.
Oh my God. Oh my God. I feel bad for Cari now.
And then something chilling happens.
Oh shit.
Do you remember how Dave got a gun to protect himself?
Oh God. Yeah.
He realizes his gun is missing. So he reports it missing to the police. So these 2 cops who have reopened the case. And
was this guy worth it?
I know.
Odd. Okay.
Oh, on that note, not that it's about looks, but it helps to visualize people, right?
Yes, it does.
On that note, I'm going to share my screen so you can see a picture of the people involved. So these are not the best pictures of them, but it's the one.
So who's who?
Cari is on the left with the short hair. Dave is in the center, and Liz is on the right.
I mean, if I were to look at Cari and Liz, one looks a lot less like a criminal than the other.
Well, I've got other pictures, but I will show you later. But yeah, it does make you wonder, like, what is going on with this Dave guy, right? Like, he must be some shit to put up with this stuff.
Is he innocent in all? No, he's not. He can't be innocent in all this.
Bear with.
Oh my God.
But you see what I mean?
Oh
You're like,
God.
What the fuck is going on? That's what I was saying the entire time reading this case. All right, so these 2 cops who have reopened the case. They're looking at the relationship between Liz and Cari and realizing that some things have been missed or not known about at the time, because there seems to be these weird connections. This photo of the check, and why Liz was calling Cari's house and hiding her number. So they start becoming suspicious of Liz, or at least they want to look into her a little bit more. And then all of a sudden, Liz walks into the police station. But this time, to file a complaint of harassment against Amy Flora, the mother of Dave's kids. Right? So the cops said they had been so deep in their investigation of Liz that when she walked in, it was like a famous person walking into the station. Because remember, it's 3 years on.
Yeah.
It's very, very weird for her suddenly to arrive at the station. Anyways, Liz says to police that she suspects that Amy was behind the harassment the whole time. And she agrees to let the police take her phone and download all the messages. Liz mentions Dave's stolen gun and says she thinks Amy stole it.
But wait, Liz was getting messages at Dave's house at the same time as Dave. So who was sending, if it was Liz, who was sending her the messages?
Was it Amy? Let's find out. The police don't really believe anything that Liz is saying, but they go along with it because they want to keep her talking and they want to get her to put her foot in it and reveal whether she is actually the one behind all this or whether it is Amy, actually. They put a tracker on her car at this point because they're worried in case she is dangerous. Because remember, a lot of these messages, if they were coming from her, are very explicit and very violent in nature. And then the very next day, they get a call from Liz. The police get a phone call from Liz because Liz has been shot in the leg.
By who?
She's walking in a park. She gets shot in the leg. She calls the police. When the police arrive, she says it was Amy who shot her. What are you thinking?
I think Liz did it to herself.
Oh. So Liz is in hospital. She'd been shot in the leg, but it's not too serious. In the meantime, the police
the police there's a way to shoot yourself in the leg so that you're okay, right? We know that.
Yeah, but there's also a way to shoot yourself in your leg where you hit an artery and fucking bleed out in a minute.
Okay, yeah, okay.
Right? So, anyways, all will be revealed. In the meantime, the police who did the recent phone dump from Liz's phone find 20 to 30 fake email addresses, many of which have different versions of Cari's name in them, set up on her phone. And also, I didn't know this exists, but it makes sense. But there are apps where you can type text messages and schedule them to send.
Shut the fuck up. Oh my, of course there is. You can schedule anything these days.
Right? But this was 10 years ago. So that wouldn't have been that common. Right? This is like 2013. It's literally 10 years ago. So that's how Liz had set it up. I think we all know it's fucking Liz now. That's how she had set it up so that both her and Dave would get these text messages and emails from Cari in quotation marks while they're sat side by side, which is of course the reason why Dave never suspected Liz. Police estimate that Liz was spending between 40 and 50 hours a week impersonating Cari.
How did you have the time?
Well,
this is giving Sweet Bobby vibes.
Right? Watch her featuring Sweet Bobby crossover with Single White Female.
Oh my God. God,
in
these
the
stories
meantime,
make me so uncomfortable because they walk among us.
Oh, I haven't even got to half of the bad shit yet.
No. It's just, okay.
Right. So police now know it's Liz, but they would like to get a confession from her because that would make it a lot easier, right? So they told Liz that they believe her that Amy shot her, but that they need more evidence. Almost immediately, Liz shows police emails from Amy in quotation marks confessing to Cari's murder and to shooting her. So she literally was like, oh, you want evidence? Fine, I'll make some. These emails say things like, don't make me do to you what I did to Cari. But guess what? Guess who sent these emails?
Liz.
Liz. She created a fake email address pretending to be Amy and sent these confessions to herself. But these emails contain some truths, actually, because they laid out what actually happened to Cari.
Oh,
but at the hands of Liz.
I'm sad about
Amy.
Cari because her son. Oh my God, he spent all this time thinking his mom abandoned him.
I feel like they must have known. Yeah. Anyways, let's go on. Do you want to know what happened to Cari on the 13th of November, 2012?
Yeah.
Liz goes to Dave's flat. She gets the passwords for Cari's phone and she abducted her. She takes her to her own car.
How do you abduct somebody?
I don't know. And they don't know fully exactly what happened to her because obviously 3 years on. She takes Cari to her own car, which is actually the scene of the homicide. Liz kills Cari in Cari's car. She stabbed her 3 or 4 times in the stomach. She takes her to the same park where Liz later shoots herself in the leg. She dismembered the body and puts the parts in bin bags and dumps the body.
Oh
Cari's body is never actually recovered. The emails placed the scene of the homicide as Cari's car. So
do we know if Liz had any past record? Because to go from nothing to like dismembering is pretty fucking severe.
I will get to that. I have a whole section at the end about Liz's background because I know you fucking love that shit. Okay. So I'm going to go all the way back for her. Right? How did this woman become like this, right?
Oh my God. Oh my God. So, I'm not sniffing poppers. This is fucking lavender oil because I need to relax after this.
Yeah. Jesus. So because in the Amy confession emails, Cari said that, you know, Liz said that Cari had been stabbed in the car. They now think that the car is where the homicide actually happened. So they searched the car again, but this time far more thoroughly, looking for blood, looking for any kind of body matter, that kind of stuff. And they find blood under the fabric of the seats. Liz denies everything, even claiming not to have the internet, which seems like a really weird lie. Right? Because if you're claiming
weird, I don't think this is weird fact.
No, but it's like, why are you being so stupid about it? Like, I'm sorry, I couldn't have sent these emails because I don't have the internet, but I can receive emails. That's why I'm being harassed. They recover photos on her phone that show clearly a deceased person's foot. This is fucking horrifying. No. Because, you know, it's very difficult to take someone to court for murder if you don't have a body. Because you're on the back foot in that... God, that's terrible. I did not... Pun totally not intended. But you have to prove that that person has even been murdered before you can even start proving that that person murdered them. So it's infinitely easier if you've got a body or proof that that person is in fact dead. Because Liz is going to say, well, Cari's alive. She's been messaging everyone, right? They never recover the body, but they find these pictures of a decomposed foot, which they have a specialist look at to confirm it is a genuine foot with X amount of decomposition, et cetera, et cetera. And on that foot is a tattoo, which is the tattoo, the Chinese symbol of mother, which Cari had tattooed on her foot. So they can identify it as Cari's foot. And that it is...
When I said that one looks so much more like a criminal than the other, it was Liz.
Yeah, we assumed.
Cari looks happy and smiley.
Yeah. So unfortunately, they found evidence that Cari is in fact deceased. Liz had been pretending to be Cari for years. She'd been playing the victim to try to keep Dave, and whenever she felt Dave pulling away, the harassment that Liz suffered at the hands of Cari escalated. She even resorted to creating a second villain, Amy, and shooting herself in the leg. All of this was to keep Dave, because she would get a bit clingy and needy and want to be in a relationship with Dave, so he would pull away. And then suddenly she's getting harassed even more. Her house is getting broken into. Her house is catching on fire. So obviously Dave goes to support her and things pick up again, you know? In 2016, Liz is arrested and charged with first-degree murder. And in 2017, she is found guilty of first-degree murder and second-degree arson for setting fire to her own house. Liz maintains her innocence and that Cari's killer is still out there. But that's not all. I'm going to show you.
Set fire to your own house.
She killed her own pets. You know?
That's, like, I mean, it's insane.
I don't know how she does any of this, but that was really tough to read. Yeah. But that poor lady, I feel so heartbroken even looking at her. Yeah. Okay, so that's not all. So then I read a book by Leslie Rule. So just to explain, Leslie Rule is the daughter of Anne Rule, and they rule. Sorry, I had to. Anne Rule is a true crime journalist and author, and I've read a few of her books, including one about A Stranger Next to Me, I want to say it's called. It's about being Ted Bundy's friend. She was Ted Bundy's friend.
Oh, yeah, you mentioned it. Yeah.
So her daughters obviously followed in her footsteps, and this like resonated with me because we have a dad who took us along to work, regularly. So when she was a child, her mom used to take her to the court to listen to cases and stuff like that. So Leslie Rule's book is on this case, and it is called, need to take a breath, A Tangled Web, A True Story, A Cyber Stalker, A Deadly Obsession, and the Twisting Path to Justice.
Catchy.
Yeah. We'll refer to it as A Tangled Web.
That's the worst title for a book.
It's a subtitle, right? A Tangled Web, we'll call it.
David Ogilvy recommends like headlines of no more than 5 or 6 words, without prepositions if possible. But anyway.
So this book obviously goes into this case in detail. And when you tell it like she does, it does make you question how Liz wasn't caught sooner. Like, people really do turn a blind eye, and some people, men, are very easy to manipulate, it seems, especially when sex is involved. It goes into more detail about when Liz and Dave first met, for example. So she was the first person he met when he started online dating. So, he's a bit naive in terms of the dating world. He hasn't done it in a long time, and dating has totally changed. Like, I don't think when he was single, people were doing online dating, They went on like 5 dates, I said, before they even kissed. And when he finally kissed her, she asked, why did you take so long? And he said, because I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. Which made me laugh, because it sums up my dating life for sure. Like, every time you get thrust back into the dating pool, you're like, oh, everything's different. I don't know what to do, He says he realized very early on that he had no deep connection with Liz, and that she started to be clingy. But she was fun, and obviously he enjoyed the sex they were having. But I just want to do a little PSA, right? Because I have this conversation regularly with my guy friends in particular. If you don't want a relationship with someone, don't date them. Don't go to movies. Don't go visit family together. Don't go to dinners, and don't do it regularly, because you're having a relationship. And then someone will inevitably start feeling more or less than the other. If you want booty calls, then have booty calls. But like, he took her home across state to visit his family. No wonder she thinks they've got potential for a relationship. You might not want to take my dating advice anyways. I'm, divorced. But like,
that was a smart choice though. So you should take these advice.
All right, yeah. But you don't have to.
You know what? He doesn't sound like the sharpest tool in the box, and not particularly discerning, about his company.
No, bless him. But
because surely some alarm bells would have rung with this list.
And I'm not victim shaming at all. It's just a little bugbear of mine when people are like, oh, she's starting to want more. And it's like, because you're making it seem like you want more too. And people don't always listen to the words. You can say, I don't want a relationship till the cows come home. But again, if you're bringing someone home to meet your mother, they're going to get a different idea, right? So Liz had started turning up unannounced, especially when she knew he was going to be going out on a date with someone else, because he was very open about like, oh, I can't meet up tonight. I've got a date with someone else. She would turn up for the date and have sex with him. And he realized, oh, she's trying to like wear him out before he goes on the date. So he won't have sex with the other person. She even started resenting the time he spent with his kids, which for me is huge red flag, right? And
she's I'm not surprised, because she set fire to the house that her kids were living in.
I mean, I want to say the kids weren't at home when that happened, but
no, but still, she deprived them of their home.
You're right. Or did she? Because there's more on that.
Oh God.
Mainly, she was upset because seeing his kids usually involved seeing his ex, Amy. But Amy was dating other people. She even had a baby with someone else. So she really wasn't a threat, They had conversations about where their relationship was going, and Dave was always on the same page in terms of what he said. He always said the same thing. I don't want a serious relationship with you, And Liz kept on trying to convince him to be serious with her. And it's a shame at this point that neither of them was stronger. You know, him for ending it because she clearly wanted more from him that he would never be able to give her, and her for realizing that she was never going to get what she needed from him. But they carried on, and then he met Cari round about this time. Liz had asked Dave to be exclusive with her for 1 month to test it out, and he kind of halfway pretty much promised this. And so I think Liz thought she had a month to work on Dave and to convince him that she's like the best girlfriend ever, right? But actually Dave was still talking to other people online, and I think that he actually met Cari for a date towards the end of this period. So when Dave had his first date with Cari, his phone was actually blowing up with phone calls from Liz and text messages from her and so forth. She texted him and called him like 20 or 30 times while he was on this date with Cari. So in the end, he excused himself to call her back because he started thinking, shit, what if it's an emergency, right? You would if someone was calling and texting you like that.
Yeah.
I mean, we think someone's died when our dad calls us twice in a row. So, but Liz just claimed she needed some stuff urgently from his flat, like some pans, even though she never cooks, and a toothbrush. So he said no because he's on a date, and she knew he was on a date, and he hung up. So that date went really well. Dave brought Cari home, but his phone kept on continuing to ring and ring and ring, and then his doorbell starts ringing. So his intercom buzzer thing was actually broken at the time. He lived in a block of flats. So he had to go downstairs to speak to Liz. So he goes down. He tells her, my date is inside, but she insisted on getting her stuff. She's obviously trying to sabotage this date, right? Dave went back to his flat and explained everything to Cari, who just laughed it off. Dave walked Cari out. Remember you asked, did they meet? Did they talk? That was my question too. And it was only when I read this book that I was like, okay, this is what happened. Dave walks Cari out past Liz. They apparently...
He acknowledged Liz.
Then he lets Liz in. So this answers a lot of questions about what happened in that scenario. So apparently Liz was shooting daggers at Cari, and Cari was just walking past, you know? The women didn't speak to each other. They barely looked at each other. Liz goes into the flat, collects her stuff, and finally leaves. At which point Dave calls Cari and apologizes. And Cari says, well, look, the night is still young. Why don't you come over to mine? So Dave then drives an hour away to her house. So Liz's plan to like scupper their date really didn't work out, you know? And in fact, the way that Cari handled it so coolly and calmly probably turned Dave on, you know? Soon after this first date, a guy called Sam Carter requested Facebook friendship with Cari. She didn't know who he was, and she was suspicious. And remember, she works in computers. So he claimed he was from her hometown of Macedonia in Iowa, where she lived. But he spelt Macedonia wrong, which is like, curious. And that town has a population of 240 people, which is nothing. So she was like, how do I not know you or your family? Right? But she saw he'd posted lots of pictures of her hometown. She didn't accept the friend request, but she didn't decline it either. She messaged him and says, do we know each other? He replied that they went to Iowa Western Community College together. And she replied, I remember you. Now, I think this is probably just to be polite, because actually the photo used was a doctor in LA. He replied, you still as pretty. And so begins the stalking of Cari by Liz. Fun tangent, in Leslie's book, she mentioned very often how kind Cari was known to be. And she talks about whether kindness is inherited.
Okay.
Right? we talk a lot about whether or not bad traits are nurture or nature or a combination. So I thought it was really interesting to think about it in terms of good traits. Are they nurture
I mean,
or nature?
I think it is, because you learn from your surroundings. You learn from the people that you're around. You model your parents' behavior or whoever you're around, right?
Right. So my very unqualified opinion is that, like with the bad traits, it is a combination of the two.
Mm-hmm.
In the Huffington Post, there was a 2011 report that they wrote on. It was an in-depth study. And apparently there's a gene variation that is linked to caring.
Mm-hmm.
So there is a small element of it that is actually nature. You
Okay.
inherit it, which I thought was really interesting. In 2012, Cari was one of 661,593 people reported missing in the US. So over 500,000 people. At the time Cari went missing, Dave thought him and Liz were over. But when she started getting abusive messages from Cari, and he started getting the same kind of abusive messages about Liz, he felt obliged to meet with Liz. And of course, sex happened. And this happened every time, like I said, every time Dave pulled away a bit from Liz, who he was already losing.
Come on, Dave.
Do you know what I mean? Cari updated her Facebook while she was missing, that she posted, moving to Kansas for a great job. Because you remember, Liz got her passwords from her phone before she killed her. She put, will miss family and great friends. And then on the 6th of January, 2013, there was a Facebook message exchange between Cari and her mom, Nancy. This was after her mom already reported her missing, because at this point she'd been gone for like 2 to 3 months. Cari says, why are you not talking to me anymore? And her mom replies, is this really you? Cari says, the other account was hacked. I'm sorry I missed the funeral, meaning her dad's funeral.
Oh my God.
Her mom says, the only way I'll know it's you is if you call me and I hear your voice. Cari then gets defensive and says, fine, I'll call you sometime, but then stops replying. And her mom knows something's wrong, because this is so unlike kind Cari, who would do anything to put her mom out of misery. I mean, a 2-second phone call we're talking about. Soon after this, Cari posts a picture of a hand with an engagement ring on it with the caption, Dave and I got engaged. But Nancy, her mom, knew instantly that this was not her hand. One email was sent from krupacari@gmail.com and had a picture of Liz's kids attached, saying, these are the ugliest kids, just like their whore mum. They should die with their whore mum, so I don't have to see their ugliness anymore. I mean, that's the nature of these messages, and they got them for 3 years. There were occasions where Dave would get new Facebook friends, obviously female, and they would start messaging, and they would start getting, so if Dave, I'm going to start the section again. On the occasions where Dave would make a new Facebook friend, a female Facebook friend, that female Facebook friend would then also start getting messages from Cari saying, oh, you must be Dave's new whore. He has herpes from a whore he was dating. I mean, everyone he comes in contact felt the wrath of Cari in quotation marks. One of them was even threatened with death of her kids, death of her pets. I will cut your kids' throats and yours while you sleep. So this was a lady called Jessica who became Facebook friends with Dave. And so she also reported it, obviously. Cari even emailed Dave that she was planning to get a hitman to kill Liz and her kids, in quotation marks, for them. So Dave probably felt a lot of guilt that Liz was going through this because of him, you know? At this point, Liz gets Dave to commit to 1 day a week. He agrees, probably out of guilt for what Cari's doing to her, but also it probably suits him to confine Liz to 1 day. Liz started being called by him and his friends as his Wednesday girl, which isn't super flattering. During the many, many months and years of harassment, Liz and Dave would break up regularly, or should I say he would kind of let it fizzle out whenever she got jealous, and then something would happen with Cari threatening Liz and they would be reunited. At one point, Dave's car was keyed with the words, "Dave loves fat whores." I mean, who doesn't? But, you know, it's just disgusting behavior, isn't it?
God, I wonder if he ever had suspicions about Liz. I mean, the behavior is questionable. Like the fact that she's, even just the obsession with him should raise alarm.
Yeah. And then Amy started getting threatened as well with messages like, "Wait till I cut your throat." And I know you like background, so here's a little bit of background.
Yeah, I'm so curious. What the fuck happened to Liz?
So Liz had a son by a man called Dirk. She got pregnant really quickly and then broke up when the baby was 1 or 2 because of Liz's jealousy. Dirk started seeing a woman called Melissa who reported that Liz would send her harassing messages as well to both her and to Dirk.
So this was actually on police records. Oh my fucking God. Okay.
Liz keyed her car and would regularly turn up in the middle of the night to their house. But one day she left a very apologetic voicemail for Dirk, saying that she was just sad because her family broke up and she would behave now and respect Melissa, etc., etc. Melissa felt for her, but was also still wary, you know, and scared. But then Liz made this gesture. Tell me how you would feel about this.
Okay.
Liz baked apology chocolate chip cookies.
Oh, okay. I mean, I don't eat food that other people cooked at the best of times, but definitely not for someone threatening my life. Okay.
Yes, but she put them in 2 separate containers. One for Dirk and the son, her son with Dirk, and one separate one labeled for Melissa.
Yeah, no, thank you.
No, thank you very much, which is exactly what Melissa thought. And so she was like, this bitch is trying to fucking poison me. At the very least, she's going to give me the shits or something. So she didn't risk eating them. She threw them away, obviously. I'd be so curious. I would get that shit tested.
What do you think she put in it?
At the very least, there was laxatives. You know that. Or maybe like edibles, maybe she put some hash or weed in there, you know, because that would be quite scary if you weren't expecting it. And if she gave you a really high dose. And worse, who knows? Potentially, right? I mean, she's capable of murder. We know at this point she's murdered Cari. Yeah, so Melissa just threw them the fuck away. Smart lady. Liz continued to sit outside their flat in her car for hours, and then Liz signed up to do a pharmacy tech course, which is the job that Melissa did. She got hair extensions so her hair looked like Melissa's, and then she went out and got a black Mitsubishi, which was the car that Melissa drove. I told you, single white female vibes, right?
Yeah.
Dirk, of course, didn't seem that bothered by this, claiming that Melissa was overreacting.
What the fuck is up with these men? I'm sorry, but I know we shouldn't be victim blaming because they're
victims too, but
like, fucking hell, come on, wake up, smell the hummus.
Melissa eventually married Dirk and they had a kid of their own. And even after they moved, they still got letters from Liz saying she was much better now, she was not with Dirk, etc., etc. Then there was a letter to Melissa's work claiming that Dirk was cheating on her with Liz. Melissa, there was a picture in this letter which could have been taken before they even met. It was a picture of them intimate, right? Like this woman. So Melissa didn't take it too seriously, but then she got a picture of Dirk topless in a bed that wasn't theirs with a tattoo that he had got recently. So it couldn't have been taken before they met. Dirk claimed it was photoshopped, which, to be honest, is well within Liz's wheelhouse. I don't know where they landed on whether it was photoshopped or whether he had an affair. 4 years later, they got divorced anyways. Dirk actually asked for the divorce so that he could go out and get engaged again to someone else. And Melissa thought, at the very least, now I'm not with Dirk anymore. Please for the love of fuck, let me be rid of Liz, right? But then one day, Melissa takes her car in for an oil change, and the receptionist was like, oh yeah, you were here recently. And Melissa was like, nope, haven't. Turns out Liz has been using her name, going around pretending to be her, dressed like her, same hair as her, same profession as her, same car as her. Melissa decided to sign up for an identity theft protection because she was like, what else is she using my name for? And she checked for discrepancies in her credit history. And she saw that there had been an account opened in her name and $500 spent but not paid off. And then the account was closed. And this $500 was used to buy cleaning supplies. Melissa had no proof that it was Liz and no idea why Liz would want $500 worth of cleaning supplies. But she found out later that Liz had started a cleaning company. Turns out this hadn't been reported. None of this had been reported. Probably because Liz was the mother of Dirk's kid.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? Maybe they were like, oh, we don't want her actually going to jail or anything like that. I don't know. But if that had been on her record.
But she already had harassment on her record. So that surely should have raised some alarm bells with the police sooner.
Well, want another Liz story?
Mm-hmm.
She was actually dating someone the entire time she was seeing Dave.
Oh my God. Was she doing this to somebody else at the same time?
Kind of, but different.
Oh, for fuck's sake. Honestly, I'm wondering how she managed to hold down a job, have kids, and do all this.
Well, she wasn't working for much of it, and that's why. Because when you asked how the hell do you spend 40 to 50 hours a week, which is a pretty full-time job in itself, and work, well, it's because she wasn't working. So despite her obsession with Dave, he wasn't even the only man in her life. She was living with a man called Garrett Sloan. The relationship itself started off with loads of lies and games. Liz had a lot of unexplained men in her life, and she would dump Garrett often and then get back with him. So she was a master manipulator, right?
Fuck. I mean, it's frightening how you can be that clever and use it for such bad, you know?
I mean, she's a con artist. This is her job, right? And worse, a murderer. In the summer of 2011, Garrett goes for a swim at so he lives in a flat in a complex and it has a pool. So he goes for a swim. Liz would often bring her kids and swim in the pool with him. She's like, fair enough, right? This time he went alone because Liz wasn't with him. When he got there, Liz was there with her sister and another man. She didn't even introduce Garrett. She didn't tell him that she was going to use his pool. And he was like annoyed because she came to use his pool, didn't even say, I'm here. Can I use your pool? Want to come down, hang out with me? I really want to go for a swim. None of that. The entire time they were all in the pool area, she chatted and flirted with this other guy and ignored Garrett completely. So in the end, Garrett just left.
For her condition?
Oh, I don't know. Let's think
about
it.
I'd love to know. I'd love to know what it is. What it is. Like, is this...
Yeah. So this pool incident is just this pool incident is obviously one of her lesser crimes, but it just shows you the type of person she is. She's a user, right?
But is she just a con artist and user, or is she...
Well, she's a murderer as well.
But she's also, she also is obsessed with Dave, right?
Let me carry on. You need the full story before we uneducatedly diagnose her, right?
Okay.
So this was 2011, this swimming pool incident. So she's already seeing Garrett, and we're talking 2 years before Cari even comes on the scene. Then in the summer of 2012, Garrett and Liz are still together for some fucking reason. Garrett buys a house. It's a 2-bedroom. His friend Gabe moves in. So they've been together about 2 years now. Garrett would regularly be left to babysit while Liz would go work nights, right? This is when she supposedly has her cleaning business. This would make sense if she was like an office cleaner, but she's supposedly a domestic cleaner, like in people's houses. And I don't think it's that common that you clean a house at night, right? Like offices, yeah, you go in while the office is shut. But now we know in hindsight, it would be like a Wednesday when she's going and seeing Dave. He would also regularly give her money to help with her bills. He even admitted, because he's been interviewed in the book and in other, he admitted that he liked being the savior. So she targets men who are going to fall for this and want to be.
People like her, they
savior.
have a radar, don't they?
Yeah.
The type of person they're after.
Exactly. Then we come to the 4th of July, 2012, right? This is the year that Liz and Dave actually meet. Liz spends the whole firework display texting her mechanic, she tells Garrett. Garrett starts suspecting her of cheating because, like, we're here with the kids. It's the evening. It's a firework display and you're texting your mechanic. Like, what have you got to talk to your mechanic about? We now know this is when she had actually started seeing Dave Krupa, who was a mechanic. And while Dave would have been relieved to know that Liz had someone else in her life, Liz never mentioned Garrett to Dave the entire time. Garrett even starts getting messages from Cari after she disappears, but they're friendly. They're friendly and sometimes flirty. They're not abusive and threatening.
And under what guise is Cari texting?
Yeah.
Garrett?
He only found out about Cari in quotation marks, harassing Liz when the police called him in for an interview about it. Because when they did these phone dumps from Liz's phone, they saw that she had communicated to Garrett as Cari as well. So Garrett goes to this interview that he's called for and finds out about the severity of the harassment that Liz was supposedly receiving, but also about her relationship with Dave Krupa. He had no idea about that. When Garrett confronted Liz afterwards about Dave Krupa, Liz says that their kids play together and that's it. So Garrett stayed with her. I mean, I would love/hate to see this woman in action. She is clearly a fucking master manipulator, right? So the summer after Cari goes missing, Garrett's roommate, Gabe, moves out. And Garrett asks Liz to move in with him because she's struggling financially and so forth. And she's been much warmer to him recently, as she always is during periods when Dave is pulling away. He thought they would share his bedroom, seeing as they were supposedly in a relationship, but instead she claimed his basement and started being really cold to him. Garrett immediately regrets asking her to move in and wanted her out. So he starts paying for everything in the hope that she will save up money to move out. That's not what she's gonna do.
Do you know what? This whole thing gives me Michelle Notek vibes.
It's so creepy. But basically, what happened to her house? Remember?
Yeah.
So she moved in with Garrett, burnt down her house. So she already had another place lined up. That's why when you said, oh, you know, she burnt her kid's house down. Nah, she already had one lined up. So at this point, after the fire, Liz stops working completely because she claimed all of her cleaning products were lost in the fire. So she's now free to stalk full time. But I mean,
replace them.
Yeah. Some of this money that Garrett is spending on her, giving her, she clearly had no intention of going back to work, basically. No. It's obviously excuses. Do you want to go even back further into Liz's background?
Yes, I do. I want to know everything.
It's a doozy. So Leslie Rule, who wrote this book, A Tangled Web, managed to track down Liz's birth aunt because Liz had been adopted. She was originally from Michigan. She knew she'd been adopted. That wasn't a secret. Sadly, the aunts had actually been looking for Liz for decades. Like, imagine if Liz knew that she was actually wanted and loved.
Her life would have been
how differently things could have turned out for everyone, right? Her mother was kind, although clearly Liz did not inherit this gene variation. Her mother was called Dee. And really sadly, her mom was in an abusive relationship with Liz's dad. And she had the kids taken off of her. But she was about to get the kids back because the dad was out of the house, out of the, you know, she'd ended that relationship. She's walking home from the laundromat one day when a guy called Troy Samuels, who was an epileptic who was not permitted to drive. He was driving. He had a seizure and hit her with his car, killing her. Dee was just due to be reunited with her 2 kids. And
oh my God, it's sad.
Can't help but think, what if?
I know.
That didn't happen? What if the aunts had managed to track her down?
It's like a series of unfortunate events.
It really is. Troy, who ran over Dee, killing her, his family was very influential. And so guess what happened? He was never really punished. When Dee's family sued him for money for the kids, you know, these small children that are now left motherless, his attorney stood up in court and said Dee's life was not worth anything.
Oh my God.
Troy's insurance company eventually settled for $20,000, which, I mean, that's not much.
No.
To raise, I can't remember if it was 2 or 3 children, but that's not much. No amount would be equal to this woman's life, but in terms of like how far that's gonna go in terms of raising children, not that far.
No.
Some of the aunts actually wanted to adopt the kids, but for some reason the state of Michigan said no. I don't know enough about whether they investigated and found them not suitable. But also that means they were adopted out to someone else, and therefore there's no more contact with family members.
Yeah.
The aunts claimed that a male social worker, who was later done for abusing children, assessed them unfairly by blowing things out of proportion. For example, urine on mattresses. Which, like, I'm not a mum, but I imagine most small children have urine on their mattress.
Yeah.
And again, like I said, I don't know enough about what went on there. There was also a high level of violence and incarceration in Liz's biological family. Almost every single one of the males was in jail.
Okay.
So who knows if that played a role. Liz went to different foster homes and she claimed to be abused in at least one of them. Now, we know Liz is a massive liar, but also who's to say that didn't happen?
Yeah, it's not unbelievable.
Exactly.
The abuse was in her background.
In any case, being shipped between foster homes, that's traumatic enough, right?
Do you know, it's so sad to say this and possibly judgmental, but it's no surprise that this was her background.
I mean, she had no hope of having... She didn't have the chances. She did not have the chances.
Stories rarely start with a happy family context.
No. So, do you want to hear another terrifying Liz story?
Oh God, there's more? Okay.
This might even be the worst of it, to be honest.
No, tell me.
It's really sad, but it's really important to relay. While she still lived in Michigan, she had a kid called Cody by a man called Raymond. Raymond says that Liz was so jealous and manipulative, and his mom and stepmom didn't like her right off the bat. While pregnant, Liz went from Ray's house to another man's house, back and forth, back and forth. Apparently, this other man was just a friend, but it turned out to be, surprise, surprise, another boyfriend. His name was Neil, and his mom, Gloria, was often left to care for Liz's baby, Cody, when he was finally born. So she's still going back and forth between the father of this child, Ray, and her new boyfriend, Neil, leaving people to look after the baby, all sorts, you know, doing God knows whatever she wants. Cody was a very colicky baby, so he cried a lot, except for on the 29th of January, 1999.
Oh, no.
So this, bear in mind, is like 4 years before Cari went missing. Neil and his mom, Gloria, were looking after the baby, and the baby, Cody, was unusually quiet that day. Enough so that they noticed that there was something different, right, and wrong. Later that evening, Gloria found Cody not breathing. He passed away from shaken baby syndrome. Do you remember this from the Louise Woodward case?
Yeah, I do, yeah.
It was such a big thing in the media. Everyone was terrified of accidentally killing their babies. Louise Woodward was a British nanny who'd gone over to the States, and while in her care, a baby had died, and there was a lot of controversy over whether it was shaken baby syndrome and what that means and who could have caused that. So I'm going to tell you a bit about that, right?
Oh God, no, don't go into detail.
I'm really sorry, but it's important to understand this case. Neil confessed the night before that Liz had called him while he was at work because she dropped the baby. But when he came home, Cody seemed fine. Police grilled Neil for hours that same night. This is a man who even his own mum called slow. He's sleep deprived. He's suffering from shock and loss because, like, no doubt he had a lot of love for this baby who he was part raising, right? The police even confessed that they only started recording the interview once they had already asked a series of incriminating questions. In the end, Neil confessed to jiggling the baby and throwing the baby up and down in the air, even though it would have required 20 seconds or more of vigorous shaking. Even the National Center on Shaken Baby Syndrome say that those activities, throwing a baby in the air, which who hasn't done that with a baby, they can be dangerous, but very unlikely to cause shaken baby syndrome. Ray, Cody's biological dad, always suspected that Liz got fed up with the colicky babies crying, but Neil was charged with second-degree murder. Now, it's important to note, and this was part of the controversy in the Louise Woodward case, shaken baby syndrome can take days to actually affect the baby. So just because a baby dies of shaken baby syndrome while actually in your care, it doesn't necessarily mean it's something you've done. It is something anyone could have done to that baby.
That's interesting. I didn't know that.
Several days beforehand. So just because the baby died in Neil's care does not necessarily mean he is the one that committed the act that led to the baby's death. Liz even took the stand at the trial in disguise because she was wanted for a felony charge of stealing a car at this point. Now, I heard, and I can't remember where I heard this, and I wonder if this is why she came to court in disguise. I heard you can't be arrested for a crime in court.
Oh, to know that.
Yeah, and I didn't research it further.
Why?
I'm really
That's
sorry.
such a weird thing.
It was another case I think I was listening to or researching where they had to wait for the person to leave the courthouse to arrest them.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Anyways, so she turned up in disguise. The nail in the coffin were confession letters that Neil supposedly sent Liz from prison. So she's fully saying it must have been Neil who killed her baby. His own mother says that these letters were not from him. They were never looked at by a handwriting expert or even questioned in court. After Liz takes the stand, she goes back to Omaha, where no one knows about the warrants for her arrest or the fact that she has a baby that passed away. Neil spent 8.5 years in prison.
Oh my God.
And you want to hear something awful? There's even rumors that there was a baby born to Liz before Cody, who also died of shaken baby.
In all of this, I keep thinking, how does somebody like this have kids and her poor kids? And what effect does all this have on them, you know?
Yeah. Do you want to hear another fucked up Liz story?
Oh, no. Okay.
I know. It's like, you get to the point where like, I don't even know if I could take anymore. So at one point,
the baby was the worst for me.
The baby is terrible, terrible. At one point, while Liz and Dave were dating after Cari had disappeared, Dave brought Liz home to Sioux Falls. Remember I told you, he brought her home to meet his family and his friends. He says he brought her along for company. I don't know how long the drive was, but this is such a stupid idea to take a woman who's already wanting more commitment from you, right? It's like very mixed signals.
Yeah, I mean, Dave, I'm going to say that he's not the smartest decision maker.
No. One friend, Tay, who they stopped by and visited, very politely told Liz as they were leaving, come back and visit sometime, as you do. So Liz did, on her own, to stay the weekend.
Okay. That would be enough for me.
She grilled Tay on all the girls that Dave slept with and why Tay didn't fancy Dave. She even gave Tay a hard time for calling Dave. She had a nickname for him, a cute nickname. And Liz was really jealous. Like, why are you calling him this affectionate nickname? Do you know what the nickname was? What? Krupa, his surname. Because Tay was married to a Dave. So she just called Dave Krupa. Krupa.
For fuck's sake. Oh my God.
It's hardly like Schnookums or Honey Bunny, is it? She then made Tay bring her to Dave's parents. And while she was at Dave's parents, she went on and on and on about Cari and how crazy Cari was. And she like scared Dave's parents. It's not her place to talk to Dave's parents about something that's going on like that in Dave's life. Who knows what he's telling his mom and dad and how much, you know? So, and bear in mind that she is crazy Cari. fucking just so loopy. She grilled Dave's mum about the child support payments that Dave was making to Amy for his kids, asking the mum to speak to Dave about it because she thought that Dave was giving Amy too much money for the kids. And I mean, that's totally overstepping. She's not even his official girlfriend. Liz started turning up at family events uninvited. Liz started texting Tay incessantly after her visit. But also, Tay then starts getting 50 to 100 emails and texts a day from Cari after this as well. I mean, Liz's games were extensive.
I mean, the time it must have taken to plan this operation is executed.
This woman must have had spreadsheets. Do you
like,
know
no
what I mean?
wonder she didn't have a job, because this is just, I mean, fucking insane, but also laborious.
She even catfished Dave on Plenty of Fish, the dating app that he had been using and that he'd met her on. At least 6 times, she pretended to be different women on there, talking to him, arranging to meet for a date, and then standing him up and then abusing him over text as these different profiles. She even tormented Cari's family. And one year she gate crashed Christmas with Amy and the kids. I mean, all of that.
Nothing shocks me anymore about her.
So it was 2.5 years after Cari disappeared that these 2 police officers decide to look into the case, and that they take on the digital forensic science detective, Kava, Detective Kava, my case crush. And it's the first time they properly looked at this check, you know, and that's when they noticed that it was Liz's name on the check. When they questioned Liz about it, she claimed that Cari had obviously been in her house when she spray painted the inside of her garage and stuff and had stolen the checkbook. But what they did then is they compared the signature on this check to Liz's genuine signature, and they were nearly identical. So clearly written by Liz herself. When the police were closing in on Liz, Garrett was getting fed up with her and wanted her to move. Dave was also getting sick of her and her jealousy and her antics. So when Liz walked into the station, they were shocked that she was suddenly trying to shift the blame from Cari to Amy. I mean, for someone who seems so smart in one way, she's stupid in another way, right? She was in the park the day that she got shot. She says she went to the park because she was anxious because she was being stalked by Amy. Sorry, but if you think you're being stalked by Amy, if you think you're being stalked, do you go to an isolated park on your own?
God, the length she went to. I mean, even shooting yourself.
In any case, as soon as she got shot, the police went round to Amy's house and confirmed with neighbors that she had been home all day, that Liz got shot, and that her car was stone cold just minutes after the shooting. And Liz said she'd been stalked by Amy in Amy's car. So they knew almost instantly. They knew before it even happened that Liz was the suspicious one. So, they ruled out Amy as a suspect for the shooting almost immediately. Do you remember Detective Kava, my case crush?
Yeah.
I mentioned earlier, the digital forensics guy?
Yeah.
This guy, he really is a legend, right? He logged 3,000 hours of unpaid time.
Oh my God.
He even had to build a machine with a specific capacity to deal with the amount of data.
He needs to join a union.
Right? So he built a machine. Right? He actually had a brain tumor, and it was due to be operated on, and he postponed the operation because he wanted to be there at the trial. He was worried that no one else would be able to explain the technology and the analysis that he did, and also because he lived and breathed it. But he was worried the surgery might affect him. It might lead to memory loss and other side effects. And he didn't want to risk the defense having the ability to say that he wasn't in his right mind because he'd had this major operation.
Yeah.
I mean, what a fucking legend, right?
I mean, he's taking his job seriously.
Yeah. Kava and some of the other police officers that worked on the case set up the Cari Farver Memorial Scholarship Foundation, which mainly supports people who want to go into the study of it mainly supports people who want to go into IT studies, like Cari did, and like Detective Kava is obviously involved in if he's doing digital forensics. Yeah, you can check out the website. We'll post a link somewhere as well. It's forensic.coffee. Cute, right?
Hmm.
Liz even managed to manipulate her own lawyer. She showed him tax returns to prove how much she earned and a tax rebate so that he would take on the case without getting payment in advance or deposit or whatever. These documents were forgeries.
Oh my God.
Here's a quote about Dave. The person he felt obliged to protect was the monster, and because of him, an innocent person was dead. So Dave talks a lot about the guilt that he feels, even though he's an innocent in this as well, 100%. Mm-hmm. Dave has agreed to do any show that Nancy, Carrie's mum, wants to do, because in his words, I got her daughter killed. Oh, Max Carver, Carrie's son, he's engaged and he's following Cari into the computer programming world, which I just wanted to touch on because that poor kid, right? Who's now an adult, but what that boy had to go through.
I feel so sad for her son.
So that's the end.
Oh God. Do you know what?
Did I tell you, like, it starts off fucked up and the more you research, the more fucked up it gets.
Do you know what? It reminds me of Michelle Notek, but it also reminds me of Belle. Do you remember the Norwegian lady from like 100 years ago? The scheming, the manipulation, the lengths that they go to construe this bullshit. And
I mean, she's a career manipulator.
Yeah.
It's literally how she survives in life.
Yeah. And like, there's simpler ways to make money. It's crazy.
Do you know what I mean?
But like, I don't understand why you'd want such a fucking insane life, but also ruin so many other people's. Like, okay, you know, maybe we're going to get another review from another Karen calling me a judgy bitch. But what the fuck happened to just getting a job, paying for your
like
own
surely
house?
A secretarial role would be a lot simpler with like, a lot less drama.
Not setting fire to your house, getting a partner that, you know, doesn't just want to see you Wednesday. And I know someone's gonna fucking say you're a privileged bitch. But honestly, there's easier ways to make money than she did. And also,
everything in her life was dispensable and disposable. When it no longer served her, when it became a pain, she would get rid of it. Or in the case of her pets and potentially her baby, kill it.
Yeah, but that's the thing. It reminds me of the Tinder swindler as well. But like in a very twisted, dark, gruesome, grotesque, tragic way where people lost their lives. Like, this is not just a con artist. This is she's evil. Do you know what I mean?
Can you imagine the amount of people she messaged that I only mentioned in passing here? That alone, for me, if I was suddenly getting these horrendous messages and I didn't know where they were coming from, that alone would freak me the fuck out. So the amount of people she tormented, we don't even know, because this is clearly what she does, right? In her lifetime, how many people has she fucked around, fucked over, fucked with?
But you know, the thing is, with a brain like that, and she clearly has some smarts about her, because this is a whole operation, a whole fucking production, you know, that went on for years. And she got away with some crimes, you know, before she was caught. So she's clearly a clever fucking schemer.
I know.
And imagine if those brains were used for something good, or just if the brains were used for something not so fucking evil. But the other thing also is, I just don't understand.
It goes back to opportunities, though, doesn't it? Because if she had grown up in a household where she felt loved, if she had people that spotted her intelligence or her capabilities, because she definitely had some smarts up there, her coordination, organization skills, and guided her in a positive way. Oh, have you thought of a career in event planning? Do you know what I mean?
But you know,
juggling those many balls in the air. Perfect for event planning. If someone had guided her down the wedding planner route.
I know. Like, how did she even keep it up and remember all those lines? Like, if you're such a liar, you have to have a good memory. But also, this is not just a con artist. That's what I can't get my head around. If you want, like, someone to pay your rent or someone to pay your phone bill, there's easier ways, and you don't have to manipulate and be, manipulated.
Yeah, but is it easier? Is it easier? Because maybe for her, it was easier to manipulate these men.
I mean, sugardaddies.com. Do you know what I mean? There's fucking websites for that. You don't need to ruin people's lives to have,
I know.
If you are that way inclined, where you don't obviously have your own money, there's easier ways. She's
then taken it to the next level and actually killed.
Yeah, that's what I don't get. This is not just an opportunist and someone who doesn't want to work, want somebody to pay their bills. This is like obsessive stalker. Oh, I'd love to know what she was actually diagnosed with if she were to be. So presumably,
I didn't find anything.
Wait, D, she's in fucking jail, right?
Yeah, she's in jail.
Thank God.
She got convicted of the murder, remember, and the second-degree arson for the fire she set to her own house that killed her own pets. I didn't read anything about her mental health situation. I don't know whether it's because it wasn't made public or whether they've assessed her and she doesn't have any mental health conditions.
You must do. If you can do something that evil, you must.
I don't know.
You've gotta.
So, but yeah, I there was nothing mentioned in the book or anything. I mean, obviously a lot covered about her trauma of, growing up in her life. She for sure had traumatic events that she was the victim in. It's always the way it starts, isn't it? But yeah, I didn't read anything about any kind of personality disorder or psychopath tests or anything like that. But fucking hell, right?
Oh, I dislike it so much. I dislike this fucking story so much. And the thing is, like, every time we do an episode or we're researching for an episode, I always think, oh, I'm not going to find something this crazy. I remember thinking the Lululemon murders was one of the worst things I fucking heard of.
There's just unfortunately a lot of fucking crazy out there.
Oh God. And the scary thing is, Cari, she got embroiled in all this just because she went on a date with a guy.
I know. She didn't even want anything serious with him.
And the scary thing is, literally, as I said, these people walk among us, and you just don't know when you're gonna be minding your own business, and that shit happens to you.
Walk into someone's tangled fucking web. Hence the name of the book. I know, it's bonkers. And like I said, when I first watched, I think I saw the snapped episode, and it's good and everything. It's good, but it does not go into very much detail. Definitely doesn't go into her background. I watched that and I was like, ooh, I want to read a bit more about this. Found this ABC News article which went into more details, and I was like, holy fuck. Then read the book and I was like, Jesus fucking Christ almighty, what is going on with this? It has layers. So but on that note,
I'm gonna be honest with you, Dave made some bad choices.
Yeah, but haven't we all?
I kind of think that, no, not on that level. No, we have not.
I would say trust your instincts a bit more. Try not to think with your genitals more than your head.
I was going to say, I think he ignored a lot of red flags for that reason. And then
even if he didn't suspect her of murder, they clearly had a dysfunctional relationship of sorts that he wasn't happy with. But I think it's the guilt element. He clearly felt guilty because in his mind, his actions with Cari, whether Cari was alive or dead, who knows what he thought. But whatever happened with him and Cari led to Liz suffering in his eyes. This is what he thought. She even lost her house because of him, in quotation marks. So I think it was the guilt element as well, I don't think that he would have stuck around. And obviously Liz knew that, and that's why she had to resort to all these things to keep him with her.
I swear that now I'm leaving this episode with my fucking eyes open. New people come into my life, just because, like, I'm someone who, really, like, if I sense a little bit of, I'm trying to think of the word here so I don't annoy people. What word am I looking for? Okay, let's call it dysfunction.
Yeah.
If I sense dysfunction, or if I say what I want to say, which is fucking crazy, if I sense crazy from people, just swerve.
But do you know what is freaky
swerve.
about this one, right? Because this one made me like, I was super nervous when I was doing online dating because obviously true crime enthusiast meeting strangers, right? I had my murder buddies that were other people that were doing online dating, my friends, and we would text each other the numbers, the pictures, everything that we had about the person we were meeting up on a date. And we text each other, call each other when we got home to reassure them I've not been murdered, right? But this case is next level because it wasn't even for Cari. It wouldn't have mattered how much check she did on Dave. It wasn't Dave. It was the other people that Dave was seeing. So in theory, if you're online dating, not only should you be researching and freaking out about the person you're going on a date with, but anyone else in their lives.
Yeah.
And that's fucking intense. I keep on remember Steve Gaskin's words, you're very unlikely to be murdered. And the perception of danger is much higher than the actual danger of being murdered.
Yeah, but you know what?
But it goes back to that analogy. I thinking of the analogy that came out after Brexit that just made me laugh and cry because Brexit is such a shame. Yep, that's our position, and we're happy to stand on our soapbox and talk about it. But if the analogy was about Brexit, now that we know what Brexit means, do we still have to go ahead on it just because we voted ages ago? And they compared it to like a box of Maltesers, right? Now, so you picked up your box of Maltesers, you want to eat them, but then you find out that one of the Maltesers is actually a ball of poop. Do you still eat the Maltesers? Because you're like, well, I made the decision in the shop. Or do you think, I'll give it a miss. Now that I have more information, I'm going to adjust my behavior. Yeah. And it makes me think of like the danger. Okay, it might just be like a small percentage that you'll pick out that one ball of poop. But there's still that percentage. And do you want to take that chance? That's how I think about it. But so I'm gonna leave now and be super kind to Paul so that I never have to go back to online dating again.
Oh God. I mean, sorry, I can hear the baby monitor and Rio's in her room, so I'm gonna have to cut this out. Sorry. But yeah, when you think it just can't get crazier, I mean, she makes Michelle Notek sound like a rookie in evil and manipulation. It just gets crazy.
I mean, I think also because Michelle Notek was a little bit more isolated, but you know, whereas Liz was like constantly out there looking for new victims and people to manipulate. She was out there, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh, it's fucking fucked. Yeah.
Oh my God.
So on that note, bye.
Thank you for staying with us throughout this episode.
Yeah, sleep tight.
Mwah.
Mwah. Bye.
Hey there. Thanks for being a loyal listener.
Do you need a new website or want to boost your social media performance? Or do you hate podcast editing? You've tried optimizing your website and social media channels, but you're still not getting the listeners, downloads, and engagement you want?
We, the Safier sisters, love helping people with tasks that they hate. We know a thing or two about podcasts, websites, and social media, and we love working with other podcasters and business owners.
So why not head over to switchbladesisterssocialclub.com and go to our Work With Us section. We believe in collaboration over competition. A rising tide raises all ships.
Bye!